Welcome to Easy English, your go-to channel for improving your English and life.
Hello and welcome back to the Easy English Podcast, the channel where we help you learn English through real-life topics and stories that will help you be a better person.
Today, we got a really fascinating story.
We do. Okay, let's try and unpack this. Imagine a tiny island nation, really small, with almost no natural resources, nothing really.
Yeah.
Yet somehow, in just a few decades, it becomes one of the wealthiest, most dynamic places anywhere. How on earth did Singapore do that?
It's quite something. And what's really striking is the starting point. This wasn't, a place sitting on oil or gold.
Not at all.
It was a small city-state facing huge challenges right from the beginning, back in the 60s.
Exactly. So what we want to do today is explore how that happened. We'll look at the choices they made, the key moments, the sort of underlying ideas that explain this almost unbelievable economic success.
And for you listening, this is a chance to get some real insights, I think, into how smart strategy, good leadership, and, clever positioning can create prosperity, even when things look really tough.
Yeah, what can we maybe learn about growth or making the most of what you do have?
Right.
Okay, let's set the scene, because you really can't get the achievement without knowing where they started. Think back to 1965. Singapore gets independence.
Uh-huh.
And the situation? It wasn't good. High unemployment, like we said, no resources, not much land, social tensions too. It was a low-income, struggling place.
And when you keep that context in mind, the speed and the sheer scale of what came next is, it's even more incredible.
Yeah.
It really shows that this prosperity wasn't just found, it was built very deliberately, painstakingly even.
And a huge part of that foundation, it seems, was governance and stability. Leadership really comes across as central right from the start.
Yes, the approach sounds incredibly pragmatic, disciplined, focused on merit, The priority wasn't some grand ideology, it was about getting results. Tangible results and bringing people together. That's apparently what drove that quick shift from, near poverty to high income.
And here's something really striking, maybe a core reason for their success. The intense focus on fighting corruption.
Oh, absolutely.
They set up this body, the Corrupt Practices Investigation Bureau, CPIB, and it sounds like it had real teeth, real power to go after corruption everywhere.
Top to bottom. Backed by, a genuine zero-tolerance policy. And they paid public servants well, reducing temptation.
Okay, but why does that matter so much for the economy?
Well, it's fundamental, isn't it? It builds trust. That basic trust was absolutely essential if they wanted foreign investment, if they wanted big international companies to come.
Right. Businesses need a level playing field. They can't operate effectively if everything's about bribes and uncertainty.
Exactly. And linked to that is the rule of law. Their legal system, based on the British model, emphasized fairness, consistency, making sure contracts were enforced.
That reliability, that predictability, it's not just nice to have. It's vital for those big multinational corporations trying to decide, where do we set up our Asian hub?
They need to know agreements mean something, that disputes get sorted out properly.
Okay, so strong governance, rule of law. Then there's geography. Singapore's location is obviously pretty strategic, right at that crossroads of major sea lanes.
Yeah, Indian Ocean meets the South China Sea. But it wasn't just luck of geography. No, they actively capitalized on it, poured money into building a world-class port, top-notch logistics, all the maritime services you could need.
And the result, one of the busiest ports in the entire world, a key hub where goods just flow through efficiently. Transshipment, they call it.
But they didn't just build the physical port. They then worked hard to integrate into global trade networks. Lots of free trade agreements, over 25 mentioned. Big ones like the CPTPP.
Right, so those deals reduce trade barriers, making it even more attractive for companies to use Singapore as a gateway to access huge markets across Asia and beyond.
Exactly. Build the infrastructure, then build the trade connections.
Which leads us neatly into how they created such an open economy. Singapore often tops those global rankings for, ease of doing business.
Yeah, that pro-business environment is a recurring theme. We're talking about less red tape, clear regulations, making it simple for businesses, big or small, local or foreign, just to get on with things.
And they don't just sit back and wait. They actively go out and attract foreign investment, FDI.
Agencies like the Economic Development Board, the EDB, are out there promoting Singapore, offering tax breaks, grants, support, tailored packages.
And that's clearly worked. It brought in major players, finance, pharma, electronics, tech, setting up regional HQs, bringing capital, jobs,
Yeah,
expertise.
it's a very proactive, targeted approach.
Of course, none of that works without amazing infrastructure, that smart urban planning making the most of limited space.
Yes, the Urban Redevelopment Authority, URA, manages that meticulously. You see it everywhere, the green spaces, the mixed-use buildings, iconic stuff like Marina Bay.
It's a real balancing act, isn't it? Functionality, livability, economic needs, environmental concerns.
Definitely. And the transport infrastructure is mentioned again and again as critical. Changi Airport, always winning awards. It's more than an airport. It's a gateway, an economic powerhouse itself.
And the Port of Singapore, not just busy, but technologically advanced. Automated cranes, AI, super efficient customs, that physical side underpins everything.
It really does. And for people living and working there, the public transport, the MRT system, is vital for productivity, quality of life.
All that planning, that sustained investment in the physical stuff, it creates the platform, right, for all the complex economic activity.
Precisely.
Okay, let's switch to the financial sector. Singapore as a global financial hub up there with London, New York.
Yeah, the Monetary Authority of Singapore, MAS, plays a huge role here, regulating things, ensuring stability, keeping integrity high, but also, interestingly, pushing innovation, especially in fintech now.
Plus, you've got the stable currency, low inflation, that top AAA credit rating, all boosting confidence.
All crucial ingredients.
It's also become a major center for wealth management. Why specifically that niche?
Well, it seems to be a mix of things. Strong legal protection for assets, that political stability we talked about, clear regulations, but also balancing privacy with transparency and security.
Quite a combination.
Yeah, that package attracts wealthy individuals, family offices, international banks, asset managers. They see it as a safe, reliable place for capital.
But Singapore isn't just ports and finance anymore, is it? They've deliberately diversified.
Oh, yes. Very intentionally moved into other areas. Biotechnology is when you see places like Biopolis. Fintech is huge now. Blockchain, digital payments, AI, aerospace, advanced manufacturing, tourism too.
Like Marina Bay Sands, Universal Studios, the F1 race. Those bring in a lot of money and jobs.
Exactly. And underpinning this diversification is serious investment in R&D, research and development. Spending over 2% of GDP is mentioned.
Wow.
Yeah, agencies like A-Star Driving Research and big national initiatives like Smart Nation using tech to improve urban life, business, government services.
It's about not standing still, always looking for the next thing, staying dynamic, right? Building resilience through variety.
That seems to be the philosophy, nurturing innovation constantly.
And running through all of this is the people element. Developing a really highly skilled workforce is presented as absolutely vital.
The education system gets top marks globally, doesn't it? Especially in things like math and science, and a strong focus on meritocracy rewarding talent and hard work.
And it's not just about school. There's a big emphasis on lifelong learning, constantly upgrading skills. That Skills Future initiative sounds important.
Keeping the workforce relevant. Plus, they actively pull in talent from overseas. Liberal visa policies, special programs for tech experts, entrepreneurs, investors.
Bringing those skills and ideas from all over the world.
Absolutely. It's a key part of the mix.
Okay, another big pull factor for business must be the tax system. It sounds very attractive.
It does. A low corporate tax rate, 17%, potentially lower with incentives. That gets headlines.
And for individuals.
Personal income tax is progressive, so higher earners pay more, but it caps out at 22%, which is relatively low compared to many developed countries. And there's a decent amount you can earn before paying any income tax.
Plus, no capital gains tax, tax-free dividends. That's attractive for investors, surely.
Definitely. And there are specific tax breaks for startups too, plus funding support. It's all designed to encourage entrepreneurship and investment.
It creates that whole ecosystem, doesn't it? Favorable taxes, clear rules, support structures, makes businesses feel welcome.
Exactly.
And just circling back to that point about integrity, it really seems foundational. The anti-corruption efforts are mentioned repeatedly. The fact the CPIB reports directly to the Prime Minister, that sends a message.
It does. And beyond the structure, it's about fostering a culture of integrity, high ethical standards expected from officials, regular audits. Transparency International consistently ranks them among the least corrupt globally.
And that low corruption, high integrity environment is constantly linked back to building trust and predictability for business. It keeps coming up.
Because it matters. It's a core competitive advantage.
So all these internal strengths are then amplified by how plugged in they are globally. That active trade diplomacy.
Yeah, a very outward-looking, aggressive trade policy, always pushing for open markets, building partnerships through trade deals.
We mentioned the FTAs earlier. Being part of big regional blocs like ASEAN, CPTPP, RCEP, plus deals with the EU and others, that gives companies based there incredible market access.
Access to something like 80% of the world's GDP, apparently. It makes Singapore a natural hub for serving the whole Asia-Pacific region.
And they take a leading role in organizations like ASEAN, advocate for global trade rules through the WTO, using their economic weight and soft power strategically.
It's about embedding themselves deeply in the global economy, diversifying their connections, building resilience that way too.
Now, shifting focus slightly, the social policies and quality of life. This might seem separate from economics, but it's presented as very connected. That unique public housing model, for instance.
Ah, yes, the HDB,
Right.
the Housing Development Board. It's quite remarkable. Over 80% of Singaporeans live in these government-built, subsidized flats. High quality, well-maintained, in planned towns with amenities.
And the impact. It allows most citizens to own their homes, build up some wealth and security that way. It provides huge social stability, often called one of the world's most successful housing programs.
It really is. And crucially, within that system, they have policies to ensure racial integration, ethnic quotas in housing blocks.
Right. That's aimed at preventing ghettos and fostering social harmony.
Exactly. Along with promoting multiculturalism generally, having 4 official languages, recognizing different religious holidays, it's all seen as vital for avoiding social friction, which in turn creates a stable environment for, well, everything else, including business.
It's striking how deliberately they seem to link social cohesion with economic success. It's not just an afterthought.
No, it feels very intentional. It's about the whole societal structure supporting the economic goals, and that overall robustness really shows up when they face crises.
Yeah, the way they handled things like the Asian financial crisis in '97, the global financial crisis in 2008.
The approach sounds very proactive. Prudent fiscal management over the years, building up large reserves, being quite conservative financially, so when a crisis hit, they had firepower.
They could roll out big stimulus packages quickly. Billions were mentioned for resilience back in '08.
Yes, entering crises from a position of strength allowed them to cushion the blow, support people and businesses.
Even the recent COVID-19 pandemic response is noted. Quick lockdowns, testing, tracing, using digital tools effectively.
And again, massive financial support. Over $100 billion in various packages, wage subsidies, rent relief, grants. It helped them avoid a really deep recession, keep unemployment relatively low.
And a lot of that effective crisis response is attributed to, well, institutional readiness, having capable systems in place, and high public trust.
A competent civil service and a population that generally trusted the government's decisions made it possible to implement tough measures smoothly. That's highlighted as a key factor.
Looking ahead now, sustainability seems to be a big focus, even for a small, dense city-state.
Yes, the Green Plan 2030 is mentioned, a comprehensive plan to tackle climate change risks. Goals like boosting solar power, more electric vehicles, greening buildings, increasing parks and biodiversity. They're even incentivizing green innovation.
And interestingly, trying to position themselves as a hub for carbon services, green finance, things like that.
Yeah, the stock exchange developing green bond frameworks, the MAS pushing ESG standards. It shows they're integrating environmental goals right into their economic strategy, potentially opening up new growth areas.
But it's not all perfect, is it? The information does point out ongoing challenges.
No place is perfect. Rising income inequality is mentioned as a concern, the cost of living too, especially for lower income groups, housing and healthcare costs.
Though there are responses noted, targeted support, skills training, pushing for wage increases at the lower end.
Right. And another big one is the aging population.
Yeah.
Low birth rates, people living longer. That puts pressure on healthcare, pensions, the workforce size.
So they're looking at things like later retirement, promoting active aging, using technology, and carefully managed immigration to help fill gaps.
Mm-hmm. And finally, there's the constant pressure of global competition, other cities rising, and just the sheer speed of technological change. They have to keep adapting, keep innovating, stay ahead of the curve.
So for you listening, as you take all this in this complex picture, what stands out most? Which factors seem most crucial or maybe surprising in this Singapore story?
It's definitely a mix, isn't it? So many interconnected pieces working together.
Yeah. Based on everything we've discussed, Singapore's journey isn't just about getting rich. It really feels like a case study in how, well, strategic vision, disciplined follow-through, and relentless investment in the hard stuff like infrastructure, but also in institutions and critically in people, can overcome massive disadvantages.
Building lasting prosperity against the odds.
Exactly, in a world that's always changing. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it, what potential might be locked up in other places, other nations, maybe even communities closer to home that also face limitations.
That's a really powerful thought to end on. What lessons can be drawn?
I think that's it for today's episode. If you like it, support us by giving it a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel. Thank you.